NRG were in it. We all saw that last time. There was quite a long tech pause in this game, which was interesting. But the big thing here is teams that are not making the regional. Let us begin by looking at Europe. Right, I'm going to go YouTube mode, okay, guys? You ready? Hello, everyone. We've just had week 2 of RLCS. So the first week was North America, MENA, and APAC. And this week we had the other regions, as well as the qualifiers for next week. So we've got lots of Rocket League to look over. And we're going to be starting off with Europe, which was very exciting this week. As we can see here, the final results are Oxygen coming in first, Coming Corp, Moist, and Quadrant. So a lot of you might be seeing there's no BDS here. Well, they did make it into the 5th to 8th spot, but they got beaten out by Quadrant, which was a bit of an upset. So we're going to look at how this all happened. So to start with, any new rosters that you guys need to be aware of. If you watched last week's video, you'll have seen some of these in the closed qualifier. We've got the Spanish team G1. Moist have now got Astral in place of Vatira, where Vatira went to Carmine Corp, which is why the Carmine Corp Moist match was very exciting. Evil Geniuses got Tox in place of Rizex. Oxygen is this new superstar team, Archie, Oli, and Jorias. And then we've got BDS, same as before, Liquid, same as before, and then the rest of the teams, you can look at them yourself. And actually, Algeria did very well, because they were one of the lowest seed teams in this tournament, did very well. They were in the open qualifier, 17th seed in Europe, so they didn't get invited to the top 16 qualifier. And you can see here, they actually beat out the eventual winners, Oxygen, in the first round, and then just narrowly missed out 3-2 to 3 other top 8 teams. So here's how the Swiss went. Moist, close games across the board. You can see classic Europe, lots of game 5s and stuff in the Swiss. But Oxygen, once they got this loss from Algeria, then they just munched through the rest of their teams. Carmine Corp looked good, just a close one against BDS, and you can see how that all panned out. Liquid almost struggled. They don't really like the Swiss format, and they almost struggled here, but they managed to clutch it up at the end. And surprisingly, Evil Geniuses, one of the teams that everyone wanted to see do well, because Tox coming in should make the team stronger, and they look stronger, but they just struggled a bit. This first loss against Sonics, getting Quadrant in the second round is a tough one. It's really tough how they had to go up against Liquid here. So they had a bit of a rough run, but it's on them for losing out on this first game here. So you can see, here's the top 8. This is what ended up happening. This Quadrant BDS series, what a series though. Quadrant popping off, playing so good there against BDS. Unfortunately not able to reproduce it here against Oxygen, but Oxygen in the final and against Quadrant looked like one of the best teams in the world. So coming out on that Sunday looking like one of the best teams. We've done a bit of analysis on Oxygen on the channel, and so hopefully you guys have seen what Oxygen looked like up to this point, but this is a whole different team, and I'm excited to see it and see what's changed for them and what's made them look so deadly, especially around Jorias and his individual performances. But Carmine Corp Moist, what a series though. Like the grudge match here, Vatira switching over to Carmine Corp, Astral over to Moist. Seeing that grudge match there will be amazing, and obviously the El Splashico here. So lots of series to analyze here on the Gregan channel. I'll be uploading this final to YouTube pretty soon. That will probably be going out tomorrow or the day after. And then other than that, we'll go through the semis and quarters gradually throughout the week. But then there is 4 other regions that had the regionals this week. A bit of an upset in OCE. So for those of you who don't remember, Pioneers, young team that did quite well last season, started to take the spot of number 1, number 2 in OCE. And Power, they have now gained Fever from Renegades before. So Torsos, Amphis, and Fever. These are 3 players who have been at the top of OCE for quite a while now, especially during the RLCS X and last few seasons. This team should do well in OCE. We'll see what happened when we get down lower, but there's some other teams here trying to break through. They got upset in the quarterfinals. Right down here you see Power losing out in that 7-game thriller here, Power versus placeholders. You know, awkward as well because of the way the Swiss panned out. Power losing out in the Swiss to Pioneers here actually meant that they're going to be on the same side of the bracket as Pioneers. And then Pioneers look dominant outside of that. So Power are going to have to start performing well in the next regionals, because the difference between quarterfinals and making the final is massive in terms of points now. Like when you look at this, look at how many points 6 versus 16 or 12, right? So this is massive, getting 5th to 8th. They're going to need to make a final, probably even win to get that second spot. So there's quite a lot of to contend for there in OCE. Then in South America, so this is an interesting one. Those of you who saw the Worlds, you'll remember that we had the club do very well at Worlds. They just narrowly missed out to Furia in that 9th place battle, you know, to make it into the top 8. And then they dropped their star player, who we all thought was their star player, KV1, if you guys remember that, and they added in Bems in place, and then KV1 went over to Team Secret. I don't know whether it was KV1 leaving or club dropping, I'm not sure the details on that, but Team Secret, Sad, Knight, and KV1, they picked him up. So right here, you'd expect Team Secret to get stronger and the club to get a little bit weaker. And then for those of you who remember Shad from Complexity, He's gone over to Crew. So is this a cross-region transfer from North America to Sam now? I don't know how you define this, but Shad is back in South America, and we can see that the Swiss, the club and Team Secret come out on top. It's all looking pretty normal. So this is common in regions that don't have a huge amount of depth, as you start to see your top teams dominating Swiss still. And what ended up happening here is Team Secret lost to Endgame in the semi-finals. They got absolutely dominated there, it seems, where Club went through on this side. Close game against Crew. You know, Crew going to be up there contending for that top spot, and Endgame getting defeated in the final. So Endgame getting the upset against Team Secret is big for them. They're now in with a chance of making it through to that top 2 spots for South America at the major. But I really do see this region being Club, Secret and Crew competing for those top 2 spots, but Endgame now throwing a spanner in the works, which we're all going to watch out for. And then for the final region that had their regional, we're going to look at Sub-Saharan Africa, and then we'll have a look at the North American closed qualifier. So for those of you who remember last season, there was 2 Sub-Saharan African teams that made it to the Worlds. That was Bravado and Orlando Pirates. Well, those teams have switched up now, because To Die For, who was the star player of Bravado, joined Snowy and Darth of Orlando Pirates XD, and they now are May Contain Nuts, and then Orlando Pirates picked up Happy Meal's team, which is here. So we've got a lot to look for in this region. You know, some of the players have really switched up who they're playing with. You know, skill steals over here now. So yeah, the players have really mixed it up, but as is expected, we have a super team now in Sub-Saharan Africa. Went 9-1 in the Swiss, May Contain Nuts, and Orlando Pirates XD still doing well. And if we look into the quarters, semis and finals, May Contain Nuts literally dropping 1 game here in the semi-finals. Otherwise, looking pretty dominant. You can see how dominant this final was here as well. Only conceding 3 goals across the series, and then averaging 3.3 goals per game. Is that 3.3 or 3.25? 3.25 goals per game. So very excited to see May Contain Nuts. And I think looking at the stats, To Die For is being facilitated as the superstar player on that team. So excited to see that. Then for the final thing we're going to look at here today, the North American closed qualifier took place. So this is the 9th through 24th teams in the region, and surprisingly, NRG were in it. We all saw that last time, not quite making the top 8, so they had to play in the closed qualifier, but they looked pretty good here, 9-1, only dropping 1 game to Rogue. There was quite a long tech pause in this game, which was interesting, but yeah, 9-1 there. Complexity scraping through all 3 of their matches, but they did end up winning them all, 3-2, 3-2, 3-2. But the big thing here is teams that are not making the regional. Now we look here, Pittsburgh Knights not making the regional, Luminosity not making the regional, Dark Zero not making the regional, Charlotte Phoenix, Exet, all these big orgs in North America not making the regional. Now for some of these, that's all right, because they get a chance to go to the 3rd regional of the year, of the split, sorry, because they got enough points through the first one, and the teams that have made it in their place won't necessarily get enough points. But for teams like Dark Zero, they've now got to wait until I think the 27th of January before they can compete in RLCS again, because they're not going to be able to qualify for the 3rd regional with the new format system. So this is pretty rough now for those teams on the bubble, the 19th, the 17th, 18th, 19th teams in the region. It's not looking so good. So North America been shaken up a little bit, but excited to see NRG in the regional now with stronger teams to compete against. And I think that's pretty much everything from last week's RLCS. What was your favorite series to watch? What were your favorite moments? Are you excited for these new super teams now in OCE and South America and what they can potentially do at the majors? And excited for Oxygen now in Europe looking so strong? That's the summary of the week.